Okay.
We'll let you run.
We're ready. A quorum. All right. I'd like to call the Central Health Board of Managers Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. It is about 5:31 p.m. and I would like to take up, first of all, explain some of the changes in the agenda before we go forward. I will be taking items out of order as listed on the agenda. We will cover item 1, 2, and then we'll drop down to 5. We will not be taking up item 6 at this meeting, so I will pull and table that item. We will then move back to item 3 and 4 and hear about the financial statements. We'll then go into executive session and take up items 8 and 9.
Hello, and welcome to the meeting.
We're going to take 8 in open session.
Oh, can it be an open?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a short.
8.
8.
There's only 9.
8 in open and then 9 in closed. Great. Okay. I'd like to lay out item 1 of the agenda, approve the minutes for the following meeting of the Central Health Board of Managers Budget and Finance Committee, December 6, 2017. I have a motion?
So moved. I move that we approve the minutes of December the 6th, 2017 for the Budget and Finance Committee.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passed. Thanks. Okay, I'd also now like to take up item 2 on the agenda, receive and discuss and take appropriate action on the presentation from Southwest Retirement Consultants and Branch Banking and Trust on the quarterly investment results of the Travis County Healthcare District Retirement Plan and the 457 Deferred Compensation Plan. And I think I'll turn it over to Jeff. And about how long do you think our presentation will be?
I don't think it'll be more than 10 minutes.
Okay, so about 20 minutes would be
Sure.
for presentation and questions. Okay, great.
So Jeff Knodel, Central Health, and typically we have someone from BB&T here who is our administrator for the employee, both the retirement plan and our 457 deferred compensation plan. But as we saw yesterday, weather is affecting travel, and they're not able to be here. I'm going to fill in. Typically you have either Lisa Hayworth or Zach Wally here. I'm going to fill in their absence. They are on the phone in the event there are any questions that they maybe can help me answer, or we can get back with you either way. I'm going to very, very quickly go over just an executive summary, which they provided in your packet. And then we're going to talk about one action that we're going to request from the committee as a recommendation to the full board. The recommendation that we're requesting, it's very routine. You've done it before, and I think you'll see that there's a reason why they're making the recommendations that they are. In addition to that, we have a third party that always helps us evaluate any recommendations. They've looked at these recommendations also and have concurred that they agree that this should occur. With that, I'm going to launch into first there's an executive summary in the packet. Is there not?
What is it, Jeff? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, what, give me a page or a tab or a...
Hey, no, there's only a memo.
Okay.
Jeff, there's only a memo.
There's not a prison.
Okay, well, let me go over this real quick while we're getting this, and this, you'll have all this information, and this is really the highest level.
If I may, I'm sorry.
No, sure.
Because what they have in their packet is the memo, it would probably best if you work with the memo first.
Okay.
That's what they've got in their packet.
Okay,
And they'll
okay.
work to find this presentation.
Sure,
Did they put that together? Is that their NTs?
Sure, either way, I really was just gonna give information on the size of the growth of the funds, and that was really it. You'll have all the information here shortly. But I can move on to the memo since we have that in front of us. So on the memo, we're asking for two types of actions. One action is a very routine action. It actually is an action to change the fund that we currently are in, and these are funds, investment options that are offered to our employees, both in the deferred compensation, the 457 plan, and the retirement plan. And so the first action is simply to request moving from a fund that in essence is the same fund that we're requesting the move to. It's just our fund has grown larger, and as we grow larger, we have the opportunity to move into more of a institutional type of fund. And the big difference between an institutional fund and the option that we have is really the cost, and the cost would be the cost of the employees. So the first two funds that we're requesting action are it's called the Bookmark Investor Fund, and you see in the memo in your packet under synopsis on the first sentence where we talk about the Bookmark Investor Fund. So we're moving to the institutional share class, and you see the actual symbol OANMX. And again, the primary difference is the cost, and the cost on this is 18 basis points less than the current share class that we are currently offer to our employees in both of the plans. And then the second option is to move from the Hartford Midcap Fund to the R6 share class, which again is the same fund, other than it's 5 basis points cheaper than the current share class. And so on the Bookmark, and we'll also get you the report. The Bookmark is on page 41, and then the Hartford is on page 47 if you want to reference that in the actual report that we will get to you. The second part of the motion is to actually make recommendations as far as investment. Basically, in the plans, there are different investment options. For example, large cap, mid cap, small cap, other options. And within each of those investment categories, there are typically, I'll call them subcategories within those investment categories. And occasionally in some of these categories, because of different investment choices that the investment managers make, they will actually, it's called drift, but they will actually move from one subcategory to the next based on those investment choices. And those investment ratings or those classifications are usually determined by a third party. In this case, it's a firm called Morningstar that does all the investment categorizations. And so the recommendation that BB&T is giving is that two of the subcategories in the mid-cap investment category have drifted, what they call have drifted from one subcategory to another. And so we specify in both the retirement plan and the deferred compensation plan, we specify each of these subcategories to the employees. And since they've changed subcategories, there's a recommendation to move back to the truer or the original subcategory that existed. And so that's the second part of this motion, which is to recommend two fund moves. The first part of that would be the AMG Managers Fairpoint Mid-Cap Fund, and that would be moved to the JP Morgan Intrepid Mid-Cap Fund, and then you see the ticker symbol there. That has drifted over from a blend to a value fund, and we need to get back to what's called a blended fund. And then the second recommendation would be moving the John Hancock Discipline Value Mid-Cap Fund, Mid-Cap Fund to the MFS Mid-Cap Value Fund. And again, this was a value, a fund that went from value to blend, and we need to get back to the value subcategory. Again, these were recommendations that they've made. They typically, when they come every quarter, we typically have a fund change or two. There's nothing out of the ordinary of this request. With that, I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions. Again, we are asking for action tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Probably like to get a motion on the table first, and then we'll go to discussion, okay?
Okay.
Sure.
I move that the committee recommend that the board approve recommendations from Branch Banking and Trust Company for fund changes and portfolio allocation adjustments for the Travis County Healthcare District Retirement Plan and 457 Deferred Compensation Plan.
Okay. I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Okay. Discussion, I saw your hand, Cynthia.
Okay, so I'm not a securities expert by any means, but I do have a question with respect to the actual transactions that are occurring. Are we being charged, is the fund being charged? That means, are the employees having to pay extra due to the transactions that's occurring?
So they make and Zach or Lisa, feel free to speak up, but
there's no charge when there's a fund change made.
No.
Well, as Jeff pointed out, two of them are simply going to cheaper share classes that are available now. So it's just a cost savings for each employee, and there's no charge for moving those. When the other two move from one fund family to the other fund family in the two mid-cap categories, as Jeff pointed out, there is no charge to the employees at all for that whatsoever.
Okay, I understand. As you're moving the money into a cheaper fund, does that mean that the employee is moving to a cheaper fund but actually making the same amount of money, or are they going to end up making less amount of money, or what's the impact on the dollar amount benefited to the employee?
So the benefit to the employee is, in other words, every mutual fund out there has some type of charge associated with it, and they take that charge out of the performance of the fund. So if the fund's up 10% and they charge 50 basis points, you as an investor get 9.5% back. So what this does is actually give the employee more back because the cost of the fund is less to the employee now that we can move to the two institutional share classes.
Okay.
So the employee would have a higher return. It's the exact same fund, but they're going to take less from that account.
Okay, so the net is a benefit to the employee.
Oh, yeah, by lowering the price.
I appreciate that. That's a good explanation.
It is a benefit to the employee in the plan, correct?
Thank you.
No problem, thank you. And we're sorry we couldn't have been there tonight. Unfortunately, snow, ice, and other airplane situations deterred us.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely understand.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'd now like to take up item number 5, which is to discuss and take appropriate action on the presentation of the Central Health Fiscal Year 2017 financial audit. And I will let Lisa kick this off for us.
Hey, good evening, Lisa Owens, Deputy CFO. I'd just like to introduce Maxwell Lockenritter, partner Dina Jansen, and manager Aime Sanchez, who completed our audit this year. They're going to provide a draft of the audit to you this evening. It's orchestrated between our four component units, or our three component units and Central Health. And they are going to explain how all that works, but they will be back next week for the final report, but they will give you the overview tonight. So, Dina, Aimee, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. And I'm glad we live locally, so we could still get here today too. I was sleeted in yesterday, as many of us were. So glad that we are safe and sound here today, and even though we're still cold. So I am Dina Jansen, partner on the engagement, and glad to have Aimee Sanchez here with me, the manager on the engagement. Glad to be here to provide the, even though we're not finalized as far as the report, we are final in our in the work that we have, and so these are final drafts. The presentation we have is just going to be, we're going to walk you through that at a summary level, but then welcome any questions you have on the specific drafts you have in your board packet. I think that seems to run fairly smoothly. So we do, outside of myself and Aimee, we do have another concurring partner, Jimmy Rommel, who is also on the engagement and has been able to meet Lisa and Jeff and work. Jimmy is a new partner, has been with the firm for many years, but is a new concurring partner on the engagement, so a new set of eyes there. But then we also had Punja Patel, who performed the audit work, who was the associate. So several people outside of those. So I do want to just a real quick thank you to Lisa, Danielle, and Jeff for being prepared and getting us to this point to actually get through all of the different work audits that it takes to get the Central Health Report out. We appreciate your collaboration on that as well. So I will let Aimee take it over here and walk through the summary that we have again.
Aim it that way.
Aim it this way? Okay. And, this way. And if you have any questions, you let us know, except
Thank you, Dina.
it went blank, so I don't know what that means.
We go and break one more time.
I've clicked twice now. Oh, that was just the paper. That's not PowerPoint, so.
Hold on.
Okay. That looked just like a Word document. But we could still continue if you have the presentation, or we can give them just a second since it looks like.
They do, it's in their packets, so if you've got the paper
Okay,
presentation.
we'll keep moving.
Yep.
Improve our flexibility day for all of us up here today.
So as Dina mentioned, and as you can see, you have the draft in front of you all, and it's for the fiscal year ended 9/30/2017, and it includes the three discretely presented components that are part of your financial statement packet: Community Care Collaborative, and Sendero Health Plans. We just want to highlight that Sendero Health Plans has a different fiscal year end than the other three entities. They are on a 12/31 year end, and they were audited by a different audit firm, and as we are the main auditors, we're referring to them as the component auditors. Yay, we have the slides back. These are a single year presentation. They are for the 2017 year only. And as you can see on the slides, or by making reference to the packet, they contain our audit report, and they're the only part of the report that belongs to Maxwell Locken Ritter. Everything else was put together by management and belongs to management. In addition to our report, and as Dina mentioned earlier, we are anticipating to issue an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion that can be provided on a set of financial statements. It's a clean opinion, and it's consistent with the opinion that we have issued in prior years as well. It includes the management discussion and analysis, which we also subjected to our procedures, as you can see noted in our audit report. And of course, it has your basic financial statements and the footnotes to your basic financial statements as well. Since Central Health, it's under the government auditing standards, we're also required to issue a report on the compliance with just laws and regulations. So we are issuing that report as well, and it's also a clean report. We identified no instances of non-compliance with those. And this is the slide that makes reference to that. If we all want to move to slide number 4, that slide provides a comparison of your 2017 fiscal year and 2016, so you can see where the biggest swings happen one year over the other or compared to the other. We just want to mention that with regards to your assets and liabilities, the net position increased 32.5 million from year 2016, and that was due to less intergovernmental transfers, as you'll know, as you probably discussed all throughout the year. Two other things that we would like to mention as your external reviewers of your financial statements is that with regards to your investments and investment policy, Central Health is in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act. And we also want to mention that bank balances are in excess of the federal depository insurance were fully collateralized at year end as well. On the next slide, you can see also the same comparison, but for the income statement or their statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net assets year over year, again, 2017 versus 2016. The most significant item to highlight is that there were less funding incurred in the healthcare deliveries, and that's again due to less money spent in the intergovernmental transfers. Any questions for us so far?
Where are the official where is the full report housed?
Our report on your financial statements is in the very first two pages.
In the board packet, I don't know where.
But I don't know in your
packet, it's underneath the board packet?
You have it here. Full report.
What packet is over here?
Right here. Stapled, big stapled thing.
Oh. Got it?
So in addition to the MD&A and the basic financial statements, we just want to highlight that there were no new accounting policies, and the disclosures that are provided to your financial statements are consistent with those provided in the past. If you'll have any questions on those today or later on, feel free to reach out to us and of course to management as well. In addition to this thicker package, we provide with every audit a governance letter. It's just a letter summarizing how the audit went and whatnot. You may have a copy of that as well, but if not, this is a summary of what's included in that letter. As you can see, there were no new accounting policies, which I already mentioned. We encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. So thanks to Lisa, Danielle, and Jeff and their team, we were able to complete the audit very efficiently, and everything was provided timely. We had no adjustments identified during the audit, and that's a big dose, which means that all the numbers that you look throughout the year and make your decisions on did not change to what you're seeing on these audited financials. There were no disagreements with management during the audit as well. And as part of this letter, there's just a copy of the representations letter that we will obtain later from management, basically saying that everything provided to us was true, accurate, and complete. That's all we have, but we're available for questions again today.
The only thing I would add as well on the, and again, this is just a definition of internal controls that we're required to look at those, but as I may mentioned, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, which would have been required to be put in writing, but we did not identify any of those. When it comes back to when you're looking at the face of the financial statements, and we've addressed, and as I may mention, the component units with Community Care, Sendero, and Community Care Collaborative, just wanting you to know that that is a well-orchestrated domino effect where those are still also all in draft form except Sendero. Since Sendero, we do use the December 31st numbers. That audit is final. And again, in our audit opinion, we reference to and rely on the work of other auditors. That's actually performed by RSM. But we work alongside them to provide them instructions and to get required any observations we need to know of. And then for Community Care, we actually have the committee meeting tomorrow. And we have the full board meeting next Tuesday, so the night before you all's meeting. And then Community Care Collaborative will then be final on when we present to the board on this 26th. So we will be meeting with you on the 24th. Thank you. And so we will still be in final draft next week when we come to the full board meeting. And again, that will just be waiting for the CCC to finalize on Friday. Once that is done, then those issue technically prior, and then we issue Central Health. So, but again, no other work to be completed. Everything is finalized. These are our final our reports, and I guess then we welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dina, and I appreciate the presentation. Can I get a motion on the floor with regard to the audit?
I move.
Go ahead.
I move that the committee recommend that the board accept the Central Health Fiscal Year 2017 financial audit as presented by the audit firm Maxwell Locke and Ritter LLP, contingent upon the acceptance of the Community Care Collaborative Board of Directors on January 26, 2018, and acceptance by the Community Care Board of Directors on January 23, 2018.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, so now we can open it up for discussion, and I saw two hands. First, Aram, and then Cynthia. Go ahead.
Raise your hand.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy with so far the findings. You mentioned Sendero. Are they auditing Sendero as well?
RSM audits them, a separate regional accounting firm audits them. And
So that's not part of your report because you mentioned them briefly.
It is
and
part of our report. If you look at the best
It's
place.
not one of your. Oh, it is.
It is.
Yes.
Component units.
Yeah, it's included in the presentation as one of the component units. And then in the independent auditor's report, I guess you're right, under auditor's responsibility, the very first paragraph, basically, we include reference to the other auditors and the audits that they've performed.
Okay. And do you work closely with them, I assume?
There's required auditing standards on how you work in what is called then a group audit when there are multiple entities. So we, as the group auditor, the main auditor, if you will, over the umbrella, we're required to give them specific instructions to make sure that their audit is performed in compliance with all of the required standards, as well as then gives them timelines and deadlines to get us the information and also provide us any internal control observations that we might need to know that would impact the group. But again, we've had those completed and we work closely in that way. They perform their own audit under their own methodology, aren't engaged by Sendero outside of ours, and so we have all of the required communications under auditing standards.
Thank you.
Okay. Cynthia?
So my question is this, I guess first is a procedural question. So this motion that was made is to accept the audit, even though we have not yet had the opportunity to read the audit? Is that the gist of the motion?
That is.
Okay, so then I'm going to vote against it because I'd like to have an opportunity to read the audit before and vote on it in acceptance if there's no issues, I guess at the actual full board meeting, which will be on the 24th. But with respect to what it is that you all did audit, I had questions with respect to IGTs from this last year and the year before, and I don't know if it would have included the year before that. But as far as you were able to see, can you tell me whether or not any of the IGT monies that were requested of the feds or sent up by Central Health, were they only for services rendered or dollars to be received? I'm sorry. I apologize. For Travis County or outside of Travis County? That's my question. Because I'm turning it off. So there are, when it has come to light, come to our attention as board members that Central Health had actually been IGTing for services provided in hospitals outside of Travis County. But our mission is to oversee healthcare services provided to those Travis County residents. So in respect to that, knowing that that had actually occurred in the past and may or may not be occurring now, because we never had an opportunity to have a full discussion about that, I'd like to know if you can tell me whether or not there were any monies received or requested for services outside of Travis County.
So my response will be that I can't tell you that because in audit, we do not perform 100% testing on IGT payments or anything within the financial statements as a whole. If I honestly couldn't even tell you from the specific procedures we performed on IGT that I could give you that specific answer at this time. But I can't, there's no way that I could ever give you 100% assurance on the whole of the IGT because audits are on a sample and a risk-based approach. So I think that's the best answer I can give you at this point, that I can't give 100% assurance because our procedures don't have 100% coverage.
And you see, for me, since I'm a person that actually would like to have seen an independent financial audit conducted to make sure that we were in compliance, that Central Health was in compliance of its mission, and that we were spending all our monies on Travis County residents and services being provided to Travis County residents in Travis County, since that appeared to be a question, that is something that I would want to have a definitive response and answer in writing, in black and white, just, to be able to see whether or not that in fact is the case.
Right, and I think that would be a separate, management and the board
And
would
the
have
reason
to look
I
at a
asked
separate
you that-
engagement, because any financial audit is.
I know, but the reason I say that is because we are the stewards for our taxpayer dollars. And as the stewards for our taxpayer dollars, I think that's something we need to know definitively. Yes or no? Not, we didn't get a chance, not there's a test, or not, we didn't conduct a sample, or we didn't include this. No, I want to know. And I think that we, as board members, have a right to know that, so that our taxpayers can know whether or not their monies were spent on providing services outside of Travis County. So where do we get the answer to that?
Well, she gave you the answer to that, in the fact that the
can't tell
board,
us.
she can't tell you because that audit was not directed at finding out that specific information that you're asking for, Cynthia. But if the board itself would like to pay for a focused audit looking at IGTs, then we can surely make that request as a board.
The reason I'm asking this, and the reason I'm making a point of this, is because we spent almost a year in having this conversation with our Travis County commissioners, who have to approve our budget. And in that discussion, there were requests, not only by people from the public, persons from the public, but also by entities. And I myself would have liked to have known the answer to whether or not we spent any money on providing services to entities outside of Travis County, and that so some of the beneficiaries may or may not have been Travis County residents. I think it's important for us to know that, because we are the stewards for Travis County taxpayers.
Okay.
We're responsible for providing those services.
Cynthia, we understand that.
Okay.
Okay. Mike, did you want to address?
Yes, sir, thank you. So I think, the auditors, they come in and they look at the financial statements, they look at the internal controls, and they're testing for material weaknesses and deficiencies. I think you're bringing up a great issue, and ultimately that's focused on me at this point, because what you're talking about is a management decision to IGT and how you use those IGT funds. And the wisdom behind that decision, either way, ultimately doesn't fall on the auditors. That falls on management here. Now, I can say we need to get an agenda item on this. I know that I've brought this up to the board before. I've discussed it at length. I've met with you personally and will continue to meet with you at length. There may have even been some memos that we circulated to the board on this matter, but it's ultimately the prerogative of the chair to decide, do we need to go back and take this issue up again, and happy to bring this information back to the board again to discuss it if you feel like that it needs to be discussed as a management issue. But the scope of the audit doesn't go in and look at the wisdom behind management decisions that either the board makes or that the executive team makes.
Well, actually, I beg to differ with you. I believe that the responsibility for how our tax dollars are used is actually our responsibility. You are the administrator who oversees the direction of the board and the directives of the board given to you. And so ultimately, it's each of us who sits on this board as an appointee of either the Travis County Commissioners or the City Council who are responsible for making the decision as to approval and acceptance of a financial report that will tell us how we spend our tax dollars. And if, in fact, we are accepting a report that does not or is not able to definitively tell us how our tax dollars are being spent, or whether or not they're being spent in completion of our mission as required by statute, then I think that we, as a board, are responsible for not being in compliance of our obligations given to us by the appointive authorities, and that we, as a board, need to put in place those, I guess, policies or protocols or procedures so that, in fact, we will know how our tax dollars are being spent, and that they are being spent on providing services to our Travis County residents within Travis County.
Okay. Sherry?
So I certainly understand your concern, Cynthia. As was noted, this is a different type of audit, a standard audit that you would see under GASB or GAAP or whatever for an entity for that purpose, that's very prescriptive and set out with the auditing rules, with the management discussion analysis and others. Having said that, I think it is a different question, and I think maybe the thing to do would be to ask Mike if he could get with our committee chair and put an agenda on it, because you're correct then that the board makes decisions, and there may have been some decisions made before Mike got here that he could speak to, and that he could speak to any current directives that we have or have not given him, and then we could speak to any future directives that we may or may not give him. How does that sound?
I agree, but I also believe that in addition to present and future, we also need to look at exactly what occurred.
Right, I think that he has that. I suspect or expect, my expectation is that he and our financial staff can provide that
Overview of what happened in the past versus what will.
I don't want to speak for them. I think that we need to let them go back and look.
I do agree, and thank you, Sherry, for bringing that up. But I would like to say that then, as far as I'm concerned, acceptance of a financial report that we haven't looked at and had the opportunity to ask questions about shouldn't happen until we've had that opportunity. So I was just asking if we could delay it a week, let us look at this report. If we have any questions, we can ask you all to clarify them, because it could end up, no big deal, let's approve it, no problem. But I still think that it's important that we have the opportunity to do that before we accept it, since we just received it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that's all.
They're going to be back at the board meeting, right?
So in essence, we'll do.
Then I ask if we can modify the motion to say that we recommend to the board, or table it.
We could just withdraw
It is a
it.
recommendation.
Withdraw it. Just the simplest, probably withdraw it.
That's my request.
Go ahead, Nicole.
So it is a recommendation.
Yeah.
This is a recommendation. They'll be back next week,
Right.
and there will be another motion, and the board will vote
Exactly.
to accept the
Okay,
final.
and if in
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
in the interim, who would we direct our questions to?
If it's to the audit product itself, it needs to be directed to the auditors.
So,
If it's a management issue, then it comes back.
So how will we know where, just read this, get an opportunity to read this, internalize this.
Your contact information is in the
And then with
presentation.
respect to the community care and the CCC components, where is that all going to be in here also, or is that a separate document, or is that,
We're also responsible for community care and the collaborative.
are we going to see that?
In your drafts, those are separate engagements with them. So the central health information, when you get to the actual financial statements, you will see their component unit information included in this report. There's not a separate package for you to look at.
Okay.
so it would be, I think, Cynthia, if you looked at the city of Austin
Right.
and you saw that the electric utility is included within
Right,
it,
right.
similar kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And our contact information is in the slide deck. So
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
what we've decided to do is to withdraw the motion or,
What's the recommendation?
We're still in
Nicole?
discussion, but that's something that I'd like for y'all to consider.
So can I ask a point of information?
please?
So my understanding is that the motion is we're not voting. We're just making a recommendation to
Okay.
the board.
Board.
And then next week, you all come back, right? That's what I was saying. You come back, and then the board would actually vote.
Yes.
So we are recommending acceptance.
Fine with that.
Is that what this says?
Yep.
So what this says is we're recommending acceptance, but we're not voting on it, and we'll have to actually take a vote at the board meeting when they're present.
I know, then the distinction
Right.
is sometimes,
I
very
know,
fine.
no, I know, that's why I asked point of
Because
information.
this board has the authority and the ability to approve.
That's right.
Without having to even bring it or up for a discussion at next week's board meeting. So that's sometimes, that's the reason it's an issue to me
Right.
right now, that's all.
Okay. So, do we,
Any questions?
any other questions?
I would just say, I would like to read the financials too.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
We'll to go through the footnotes because they're.
sure.
so,
Well, then, Dr. Chair, we have a motion on the floor. We need to do something with that.
Yes, I was going to see if all of the questions have been answered,
just one.
and Sherry has one.
I agree that I'd like to read it and the notes, but the other question I had is, have we had the management discussion and analysis section in the past? Okay, I thought we had. Are there any new sections that have been added or that could be added that would provide additional information that you think, in other words, sometimes you see and I realize this is not a CAFR really, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and I guess that's what I'm proposing perhaps for next year, and so I'll just bring that up, is it's great that we have the management discussion analysis as part of that, and really, I mean, you have to have it now. But I would like to see if it's possible, without it being too much of a burden on staff, so to move to a CAFR next year, to a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report that would have some additional information. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, great recommendation. All right. On the motion that is on the floor, I would like to take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And any abstaining? Okay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, at this time, I'd like to lay out items number 3 and 4. Number 3, receive and discuss a report of the November 2017 financial statements for the Community Care Collaborative. And number 4, receive and discuss a report of the November 2017 financial statements for Central Health. And I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Okay, I'm going to start with the CCC Financials and just quickly hit some highlights. Again, I'll stress this is 2 months of the fiscal year. For the CCC, with the tremendous amount of provider contracts and startup, it's kind of a slow start in the beginning. So we'll have much more robust information in December, which you'll see at our next board meeting. But just real quickly, we had cash and cash equivalents of $28 million. A few other small receivables for $28.3 million in total assets. We had accrued liabilities and accounts payable of $11 million and total liabilities of $14.4 million. We had net assets at the end of November of $13.9 million and total liabilities and net assets of $28.3 million. Again, early in the year, so we are 11.6% of the way through the year with 2 months under our belt. So the revenue that has come in year to date is really just interest income on our investments, and slowly building up our healthcare delivery costs, as I said, early in the year with new contracts just getting started. So that will start to pick up pace significantly in December.
I outlined the healthcare delivery services. I mentioned this last month, and we are in the process of, if you all remember, in the CCC budgeting process, we made a lot of significant changes as to how we organize the work so that our department managers could have better department budgets. And so we're working on rewriting all of our reports to kind of match up with that. But I did highlight some key areas that you've seen in the past and that mirror the budget. And you'll see more information on our healthcare delivery operations, which will show our different operating departments in more detail next month. We did have $4.7 million in healthcare delivery through November 30th. And that's some highlights. Any questions? Yes.
I'm just curious with the urgent and convenient care.
Yes.
And I'm and knowing that we have a rise in flu epidemic right now. So does that mean?
There's a little bit of a lag. So keep in mind with the CCC, one of the things you probably have seen in the past is one, getting the contracts executed, but two, because we work, a lot of that is via claims, you will see a little bit of a lag on that. So most claims are due within 90 days, and so you may not see the financial impact for a couple months.
Okay, because I expected it to be higher during those periods of time.
Yes. So we should see claims coming in for that, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Well, this is only through November, right?
Right. It's October and November, very early in the year. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I'll move on to Central Health. So Central Health as well is earlier in the year. We do have total current assets of $258 million, $1.6 million in cash, and about $77.2 million in short-term investments make up a lot of that. Also, we record our taxes receivable as an asset early in the year, and then as that revenue comes in, you'll see the receivable go down, and our cash position will go up, and our tax revenue will go up. So we've already in December and January now. So in December and January is when the bulk of taxes are paid, and when our revenue does go up. On our liabilities, we did have mostly maintained most of our liabilities. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over one thing. On our non-current assets, mostly stayed the same. We did make a $4 million transfer to Sendero, as was budgeted in November, and so you'll see the Sendero paid in capital went up to $39 million. Total assets of $443.5.
We got you.
There you go.
We can read it.
We're good.
I know. It's not even Monday.
We'll blame it on the snowstorm.
I know.
It actually is Monday. This is a Monday.
For current liabilities, we have a few liabilities, payables and benefits payable. Again, you'll see that deferred tax revenue there offsetting the receivable. And again, as the revenue starts to come in, that'll move to the sources over uses. But our total current liabilities of $195.3 million. Non-current liabilities, this is going to be our debt. We do still have some debt of $9.4 million and a capital lease for just a small amount. So our non-current liabilities are $9.6 million, and total liabilities total $204.8 million. That gives us net assets, which is the difference, of $238.6 million, and again, total liabilities and net assets is $443.5 million. So quickly hitting on our sources and uses, we are starting to see property tax revenue come in November, but again, December and January we'll see a much bigger inflow of cash there. We did bring in $8.7 million in November. And our uses of funds, just moving down into the uses of funds, I'll go into more detail about the $8.2 million in healthcare delivery expenses next, but we had administration costs of $496,000 and a small amount of tax collection expenses as we are collecting those taxes. Excess sources over uses is $865,000 just in the month, and then our year-to-date is decreased by $15.1 million. A little bit more detail on the fiscal year-to-date. healthcare delivery costs, you'll see that the majority of our $8.2 million in expenses in November is in intergovernmental transfer for $7.1 million. And then a few provider costs of bringing our total healthcare delivery to $8.3 million. The IGT expense was for the disproportionate share, and it was sent on November 1st. And I can answer any questions about Central Health.
Any questions? Julie?
This dashboard,
Oh, the dashboard.
great, I like that.
Where's,
Is this based on budget or is this anticipated?
it
Maybe,
is,
maybe it's the same thing, but you know how like the uses of the funds, like some of that's gonna be IGTs and.
so the, on the right-hand side, so the blue line is 3 years of history of actual. And the red line is actual year-to-date, so you'll see
It's
that
not
we.
much.
Thank you.
You'll see that.
I can't read that.
It's a little small.
Better as the year goes on, yeah.
Oh, FY15 to FY17. Oh, yeah.
Any other questions? Mara?
Just out of curiosity, page 5, so the 15 million cost went down in Central Health. Is there a reason?
No, it's our excess sources over uses. So we spent more than we brought in. So it's a negative $15 million.
Oh, it's a negative.
Yeah. Now that will be evened out when our tax revenue picks up next month. So early in the year, we have more expenses than revenue. And then in the middle of the year, we get a large inflow of the tax dollars. So,
It's due to the nature of the federal.
of the tax flow, of the tax,
Well, the
property
tax
tax
received,
collection.
tax collection.
Property tax.
Property tax collection.
One last question. With this new tax bill, would we be impacted as Central Health in any way?
Which one?
No, I'm just curious. What major changes would happen to us?
On the federal healthcare bill?
No, she's talking
Or
about
the Governor Abbott?
no, I think she's talking about the
No,
federal,
The
Federal.
congressional tax bill.
the tax reform,
Okay,
quote,
sorry.
reform.
Yes.
Jeff's coming in.
Oh, no, I'll just- what I would say is typically we see a large inflow of payments because people were able to write it off on their income taxes
Right.
in December, so everyone wants to get it in their income taxes.
for the
If
year.
that were to go away, then really you just would look at January first. We'd see probably a really large spike in January. There's really no need to pay by December 31st to get it in that year's tax returns. That would probably be the biggest impact that we would see.
And you're referring to the effect of the cap now, the $10,000
That's correct.
capped on deductibility, right?
So if someone decided it wasn't worth it or,
Right.
Deduct.
because really they're kind of just deferring it into the
Right.
next year, and, there's all sorts of tax rate pieces that may affect individuals.
But-
So we may see a little less come in December, and it may just be a little bit more.
Coming in January, yeah.
But other than that, I think that's the major cash flow issue that we would be looking at, I believe, at this point.
Thank you. It's good to have you back.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Lisa. Okay, right now I'd like to take up item number 10 before we go into executive session so that when we come out, all we'll have to do is adjourn. So item 10 is confirm the next regular committee meeting date, time, and location. The next Central Health Board of Managers Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Oh, the district item. Sorry. Back up. We're going to take the district item up.
Finished it anyway, finished up what you were saying.
Yeah. We're going to take the district item number 8, discuss and take appropriate action on the 1115 Medicaid waiver, delivery system reform incentive payment projects, community care collaborative, including healthcare delivery arrangements and other interrelated community partnerships. Hi.
Hi, I'm Katie Coburn,
Katie.
Manager of Regional Healthcare Partnership 7 here at Central Health. It's nice to see you all. This is an informational item, so just an update on where we are. Memo in your packet to refer to as well. These few slides to share. It is my pleasure to officially inform you that the 1115 Medicaid waiver has been extended for another 5 years, which is great news. It has been extended through September 30th of 2022. The agreement to extend the DSRIP and UC pools and the managed care program in Medicaid came on December 21st, so just 10 days shy of when our current extension would have expired. The programs will change, which we had expected. The DSRIP program will continue for 4 more years with a phase down to no funding in year 5. The structure of the program will change as well. Rather than reporting on project level metrics, DSRIP providers will report at a system level about health outcome targets they'll be improving on. So you'll see that. The new terms in the waiver continue the regional healthcare partnership structure. So we are in RHP 7 and with regional collaborative engagement requirements still a part of the DSRIP program that we as Anchor will lead. So that will still be there. And then finally, the uncompensated care program will also continue throughout the 5 years of the waiver with significant methodology changes. What CMS has required is that it will be reducing over a transition period the types of costs that are allowable under the uncompensated care pool. And they will be reducing that to only uninsured charity care costs incurred in hospitals. Right now, the program also reimburses Medicaid shortfall, costs that are incurred above Medicaid payment rates, and also bad debt, so unpaid medical bills regardless of eligibility for charity care at the hospitals. So this change in policy and limiting UC costs to only charity care for uninsured patients is consistent with what they're doing in other states as well. So we'll have a transition period where we'll need to be watching how that affects our hospital partners going forward. This is a graph of the DSRIP and UC funding pools. These are the pool allocations in billions according to the terms. You can see for the first 2 years, both DSRIP and UC, DSRIP is green, UC is orange, have level funding at $3.1 billion per year. DSRIP then begins to phase down in FY 2020, about a 6% cut, taking us to $2.9 billion per year statewide. And then with at $2.49 billion in DY10 or FY 2021, which is about a 20% cut from that $3.1 billion at full funding. So that transition will take place, and then the program will discontinue in the final year of our waiver extension. For UC, as I mentioned, with the change in methodology, hospitals will be, and the state will be working over the next 2 years to determine what the the UC funding pools will be for DYs 9 through 11. That will be rebased for implementation in that year. The $3 billion is a placeholder number at this point, so we don't know what that pool size will be at that time. So the decisions or information that's going to be coming before you as a board over the next few months, I've laid out here per our various roles in the 1115 waiver. The Community Care Collaborative as the performing provider will be coming to you in the next month or two to discuss the DSRIP outcomes they will be choosing as part of this next round of DSRIP. So that will be a decision for you all. As Anchor, we will be conducting a regional planning and engagement process to develop our regional healthcare partnership plan. And so working with all the DSRIP providers in the region and other stakeholders to compile our plan to submit to HHSC by April 30th, assuming that deadline doesn't shift. And then finally, as funders of intergovernmental transfers, you all will be providing IGTs for successful performance of DSRIP projects, continuing for Community Care Collaborative, Seton Hospitals, and St. David's Healthcare, and then for the uncompensated care program for our hospital partners. So that is what I have, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Katie, thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Thank you for this, but in sitting in and listening to the Anchor meetings, the Region 7 meetings, and seeing so little representation from those poor, I guess, where you have very little statistical information is being provided, like Fayette County and others, to the state, and little representation from those counties to our meetings. I was curious as to whether or not you're going to look at developing an engagement process that's going to specifically target those areas that have seen increases, like Hays County and Caldwell County, and meeting actually there, so we could get a better, I guess a better number of people from those areas or from those outlying areas to attend and participate in the development of a plan.
We definitely want to engage.
As opposed to having the meetings just here at the Southeast Health and Wellness Center or here.
Right. Southeast Health and Wellness has been a kind of compromised location since it's to the southeast, and we have fewer providers participating out there, but we do want to engage all of those.
We're 7 counties. We're 6 counties.
But we do want to engage all those voices, and I think we did a really good job during our community needs assessment, which will be submitted as part of this plan, in going out and conducting focus groups with patients in Bastrop and Hays, and trying to make connections with leaders in those other counties to provide input to our process. We'll be continuing with active engagement into those counties, building on the contacts we developed during the RHP planning process. To the extent it makes sense, we can certainly consider holding meetings outside of Travis. I think, we've tried that in the past, and certainly open to all of that. We want to, be mindful of our entire region and make sure every event we have is easily accessed, both in person and have call-in lines and other opportunities for people to participate. Because
I know that one of the concerns by a person that was, I think, I don't know if it was Fayette County, if it was whatever that other county is, outlying county. Lee. Yes, they only had one telephone, one line, one person, and that person was here present, and then there was nobody there to provide any information to anybody in that entire county. And if you looked at that information, that was one of the counties that was not even providing statistical information to the state on a voluntary basis. So, those kinds of things I think are important for us to consider, especially since we've seen the increase in poverty, an increase in numbers of people living below the poverty line, especially the increase in numbers of the minority population, people of color, and children living in poverty in those outlying counties. So maybe it would be good to do whatever we needed to do extra to engage those communities, the leaders, and maybe the faith organizations or specific population organizations. There's a NAACP or LULAC or any other entity that exists, to see if you could get them to bring people in to have conversations with you all.
Yes, I will note that.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you for coming tonight. Can I make, a plea for when we come to talk about, the metrics that CCC is going to come and present to us, to see if we can get the evaluation plans for the district hand in hand with programs from the beginning. I think there's a lot of research capacity in this community who could help with that, and it really was, I believe, kind of a bit of a missed opportunity last time, where, the evaluation, I understand that there's, there's goals to be met and hoops to jump through. It's never easy administratively to do that, but there are people out there willing to do this. I'm happy to help facilitate that if I'm allowed to do that, and I really just want to make a plug for it, because I think if we can have that from the start, we're going to be able to design better evaluations rather than just looking at a metric at the end. We can actually have proper methodology and be able to do economic evaluations too, so just to put in a request.
I think that's a great idea, and I think district providers would certainly agree with you. So to the extent that we can design upfront ways to evaluate our progress, I think everyone benefits from that.
Use the researchers because they're there and they want to.
Yeah, and in fact, to add on to that, I know that there were some attempts last time by researchers, but the data simply was not available. So I echo that it really was a missed opportunity.
was moving fast last time.
I know.
I'm hoping it's a little more.
This is a
Right.
perfect opportunity to expand upon our universities.
Absolutely.
And help them with engaging and reaching out to get that data and to develop those outcomes. And not only at the beginning and at the end, but during the interim to see whether or not there are any plans that need to be tweaked, strategies that need to be tweaked in order to make sure that you reach your goals.
I'll definitely pass that on.
Anything else, Julie? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Katie. Thanks for the information. Check my agenda twice. Make sure
Sound like
that I've
Santa
got
Claus. He's
everything.
checked his list twice.
Okay. So now I'd like to take up item number 10. Before we go into executive session, confirm the next regular committee meeting date, time, and location. The next Central Health Board of Managers Budget and Finance Committee meeting is on Wednesday, February 21st, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. Central Health Administrative Offices, 1111 East Cesar Chavez Street, Austin, Texas, 78702. Okay, executive session will be held in here, so we don't have to change rooms. I would like us back in here by 7:45.
No.
I mean 6:45.
Yes.
You were really catching me on that.
Oh, yeah, I got my clock here.
There you go. 6:45.
Let's blame it on the
There
ice
is dinner in the conference room next door, so you can go and pick it up. And it is now 6:37, and
7 minutes.
I will announce that the committee is convening an executive session to discuss agenda item 9 under section 551.085 of the Texas Government Code, deliberation of governing board of certain providers of healthcare services, and item 9 under section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney. Break, 6:45.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
Nate,
if you don't, I can tell.
that was,
Yeah, you feel it. You were more reactive.
yes,
Right
it wasn't
now.
anything else.
But I do actually.
Okay, it is 8:29. We are out of executive session. There are no motions needed at this time except for a motion for adjournment. And I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carried. Good night, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much.